so good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. As you're already aware and Julie mentioned, tonight we will be discussing the YEG Tree Map. And this is one of Edmonton's tools for tracking the city's tree inventory and measuring the benefits of the urban forest. Before we jump into the bulk of the presentation, I just want to start with some brief introductions. So again, my name is Caitlin Webb, and I'm a community forestry leader with the City of Edmonton. I first started with the city as a program leader with the Root for Trees program, which is a tree planting initiative that works with volunteers to plant native trees, shrubs, and wildflowers throughout our naturalized areas in the city. So the photo on the bottom left there is a few team members as we're enthusiastically posing with some of the trees that we would typically plant. When it comes to the community forestry portfolio, we're a relatively new subsection of urban forestry, and we focus on public education and engagement. So Edmonton's urban forest provides many benefits that range from economic to environmental and social. And we hope to be advocates for the trees and engage the public in a meaningful way. And I'm also joined this evening by my colleague, George.
Hello, everyone. A pleasure to be here. That's a picture of me some months ago in front of a spruce tree, which I hope we'll get to know a little bit better later in the evening. Below my picture there is my e-bike. It's my pride and joy. I've been using it for 2 seasons to conduct site visits to various trees across the city. And it's my small part in trying to make a more sustainable future. And I'm very pleased to be here with you all.
Great, thank you, George. Okay, so now that we've introduced ourselves, I thought maybe we could do an introduction to Edmonton's urban forest. So our city is home to one of the largest areas of green space in all of North America. And that's truly impressive and something to be quite proud of. When we refer to the urban forest, we're referring to all trees within city limits, whether these are planted or naturally occurring. So this could include trees found in parks, the river valley, ravines, along roadways, on your own private property, on rooftops, the list goes on. If there's a tree there, it's part of our urban forest. When it comes to the City of Edmonton as a corporation and a business, the city does manage all trees on public land. And these trees can be divided into 3 main categories. So we have open space and boulevard trees, naturalized, and natural areas. Let's run through open space and boulevard trees first. So these are the trees that you'll see planted along boulevards and within our park spaces. So this photo here is of a recently planted pine tree in Borden Park. Now the city maintains over 380,000 open space and boulevard trees and replaces them through our tree replacement program. So annually, approximately 3,000 trees are replanted every year. And then here we have a photo of one of Edmonton's mature neighborhoods, and you can see the boulevard there lined with some lovely elm trees. Okay, so let's go on to naturalized areas next. This is another space that you'll find some trees. So naturalization is an ecological way of managing the landscape, which transforms highly maintained land into a more natural state. So certain areas of our city have been identified for naturalization, and they'll be no longer mowed. This allows the grass there to grow long and return to its natural habitat. And within some of these natural areas, the city will plant native species of trees, shrubs, and wildflowers, typically through the Root for Trees program that I mentioned earlier. Every year, that program does have a goal of planting 45,000 seedlings. So this photo here is some of our amazing volunteers that are planting trees along a slope in Louise McKinney Park. And finally, we have natural areas. So natural areas are largely dominated by native vegetation, and they're relatively undisturbed by human activity. Such areas could include grasslands, forests, wetlands, peatlands, and riparian areas. In Edmonton, there are approximately 3,800 hectares of natural area, and of that, 2,500 hectares are considered forested. Okay, so let's move on to the benefits of trees. I know that likely all of us here can appreciate the fact that trees are good, but sometimes a reminder of why is helpful. So just for fun, let's consider the many roles that a tree might play in our community. So here we have it, a tree, but what else might a tree be and what roles might it play? It could be a water filter, a crime stopper, a noise reducer, a therapist, bike rack, an air conditioner, perhaps sometimes a group of air conditioners, a traffic calmer, a ShamWow, and an air purifier. So honestly, the list of benefits really does go on, and the many benefits are expansive and they can mean different things to different people. So as the community forestry team, we often visit school groups and we ask students why trees are so important to have in a city. It's fascinating to hear the wide range of responses. Some of them think very scientifically and talk about the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, while others consider the beauty of a tree and what it means to them to have a quiet space to read a book underneath. So when we discuss benefits, we can break them into three main categories. And those are the ones you see here: environmental, social, and economic. Okay, so I am going to run through a pretty big list of tree benefits. So I thought I'd provide you with this very calming image of a tree and its leaves blowing in the imaginary breeze. Back to the calming tree. So let's start with environmental and ecological benefits. Trees purify the air that we breathe and improve air quality by removing pollutants and toxins from the atmosphere. They also improve water quality by filtering rainwater through the root system. Trees sequester carbon dioxide and help to mitigate the impacts of climate change. They help to reduce exposure to harmful UV rays. Trees provide habitat and corridors for wildlife, reduce damage from stormwater runoff, and reduce soil erosion. Economically speaking, trees help to reduce energy costs for winter heating and summer cooling by decreasing the demand for air conditioning and heating. They also increase land and property value of nearby buildings, and they've been shown to attract and maintain business and tourism. And then from a social perspective, trees promote well-being and positive mental health. I'm sure many of you had heard the term forest bathing and the positive impacts that trees can provide. Trees also provide an aesthetic value to our communities. They've been shown to reduce crime by revitalizing neighborhoods. They promote environmental responsibility in groups and individuals. They can create a sense of privacy and have even been shown to calm traffic speed. Okay, so let's take a deeper dive into Edmonton's tree inventory. So as I did mention earlier, the city manages and maintains over 380,000 open space and boulevard trees. And the city keeps a comprehensive inventory of these trees in a software called YEG Tree Keeper. So details such as tree species, DBH, date planted, and last date pruned are just some of the data that's tracked within this system. An important team within our urban forestry work unit is inventory and assessment. And every year, 1/2 of the city's trees are assessed by this team and updates are added into YEG Tree Keeper. City of Edmonton trees that have died are marked for removal and then scheduled for replacement through the tree replacement program. And anytime a new tree is planted, we use DTK to update that tree inventory.
Now, I'll just jump in here quickly, Caitlin, to point out the picture of the gentleman on the right measuring the tree. Caitlin mentioned a term, DBH, and that's an industry term, a standardized industry term regarding the sizing of trees. It's short for diameter at breast height, and all breasts are not equal in terms of height. So essentially what that means is the diameter of a tree 1.2 meters above grade. So he's measuring that particular stem, 1.2 meters above grade. He's using a DBH tape, which the observant around you, amongst you would note that he is wrapping the tape around the tree, which is more a circumference as opposed to a diameter. However, a DBH tape has the calculation for converting circumference into diameter built into its measurements. So this gentleman is actually measuring the diameter of this tree 1.2 meters above grade. And I bring it up because if you are intending to add some trees to the YEG Tree database, DBH is a technical term that you will come across and will be using. So to be continued with DBH.
Perfect, thanks, George. Okay, so quite similar to YEG Tree Keeper, we have the YEG Tree Map, which was designed for the public not only to access the existing information, but to help build the inventory as well. So in just a moment, George will be leading the group through a tutorial, but I wanted to share some history about the program. So simply put, the YEG Tree Map is an online application that holds data on the location and the name of trees within Edmonton, but it also shares information on the specific benefits that trees provide. So the web-based app, created by a Philadelphia software company, it creates an overlay on Google Maps. And the map itself first launched in Edmonton in 2014 and was the first application of its kind in Canada. It was an open invitation to Edmontonians to add their private trees to the map but also utilize the map as an educational tool. So we've heard from citizens that they like the availability of the data and that it's easily available online and through a mobile app. Individuals can easily learn about the species of trees around their neighborhood and gain insight into the benefits that they provide. So the initial data set was based on trees planted and maintained by the city's forestry department, but we're also encouraging residents to log onto the website and report trees on their own property, or to even add trees that they might see around town that are missing from the map. So I'm going to stop my share here and pass it over to George, who's going to hop right into the YEG Tree Map.
All right, bear with me, everyone, please, while I share my screen here. Okay, can someone confirm that I am sharing a screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I thought I'd just start from scratch here in terms of accessing the tool. YEG Tree Map, YEG Tree Map is the spelling you will need to use to find it. You can type it right into your search field. I have already been there today, so I'm just going to click here quickly for brevity's sake. So there we go, City of Edmonton webpage. A little visual there of an example of the mapping feature. And there are two different links here. One links to the map directly, and there's also create an account, which you will like to do if you intend to add trees. Fairly straightforward. Create a username, a valid email, confirmation of email and password, and essentially you are in. Now, I already have an account, so I'm going to click on the portal to the map itself, and here it is. So essentially what we're looking at is a map of the Edmonton area. The tree locations on YEG Tree Map are indicated by the green dots. So that is a fairly comprehensive look at the situation in terms of what is actually in the database. Now, it was interesting diving into this program. Now, Community Forestry doesn't run YEG Tree Map, and we don't use it for our own inventory. We have a similar but different system called Davy Tree Keeper. So it's very interesting to dive in a bit. And one thing we did notice is that YEG Tree Map could probably use a bit of an update. You will notice here in the top left that the number of trees that are on this map. You might have heard Caitlin say in passing that there are 380,000 or so street and parks trees in City of Edmonton inventory. And you'll see the figure here is considerably less than that. We're not sure why, and we're going to make some inquiries, but we just thought we'd give a bit of a caveat here that YEG Tree Map might be able to do with a bit of updating, a bit of a spruce up. But having said that, it's still a really interesting tool, and I think people can still get a lot of use out of it. So moving across the top here, if you're searching for a particular tree or a particular species of tree, there are a couple of different ways you can go about it. There's the search by species field here, and there's also search by location. So they're fairly self-explanatory. I will again give a bit of a caveat in terms of search by species, that there is quite a voluminous list of available species. Not all of these actually grow in Edmonton. I think this was installed by the software makers. And if you're looking for a particular species of tree, depending on how people may have entered their tree when they entered it, there might be several different ways of looking for that particular species. Some will use the common name, some will include a variety, some even just will add the Latin. So it can take a bit of digging to look for a particular species or variety that you're interested in researching in the Edmonton context. But with a bit of doggedness and a bit of creativity or just patience, you should be able to find what you're looking for. A search by address is just as it mentions. If you know the address of a particular tree you're interested in finding some information about, pop it in there, and it should come up. It'll zoom in for you, and you can click on the actual tree dot on the map to get what information is available for that. On the right side of this field, you'll see there's a little polygon icon. This is useful if you want to do a particular area search. Say there's a neighborhood park you're interested in taking a look at the tree data on, or a particular neighborhood, your own neighborhood. You know, if you zoom into the map, do a quick draw of a polygon, it will essentially tell you what the benefits and data we have available on those trees are. Quickly on benefits here, you'll see this sidebar, which has a number of benefits, mostly, well, almost exclusively in the economic and the ecological realm. Now, we don't know a lot about how the software company calculates many of these figures, and we'll just run through it very quickly here. So this sidebar refers to the entire inventory showing on the map right now. All the green you see has been calculated with various formula that we don't know a lot about. It's a bit of a black box. But these are the benefits that they've come up with, and a brief description of each I think might be in order here. So for the inventory that is listed in YEG Tree, the energy conserved has been calculated as over 49 million kilowatt hours per year. Now, energy conserved relates to the energy savings that, the potential energy savings that are essentially created by trees, both by their shade effect in reducing cooling costs in the summer, and their insulating effect by intercepting winds and reducing heating costs in winter. So that's the amount of energy that it has been calculated that these trees in Edmonton, and keep in mind, these are only the street and parks trees, as well as some private additions. It doesn't include natural stands at this point, and it might be significantly less than the actual number. But moving forward, we're going to assume that the other calculations are fairly correct, and that the kilowatt hours per year is a fairly good estimate. And, you know, I should say right off the bat here as well, the software company Xavia does make quite explicit that these are estimates. They don't say how they've come up with them, whether there's any sort of regional biasing that goes on, or if there's any calculation of regional power rates, or the sources of power in various regions. If renewables are part of the mix, that might actually mean a lower number of a lower amount of energy conserved or carbon diverted. So a bit of a mystery, but it's a good place to start in terms of an estimate. And yes, it's a good place to start for a good discussion about the benefits as well. I wouldn't use it for any sort of hard budgeting purposes, but it's for the purposes of engaging the public and initiating conversations about benefits. It's great. So energy conserved, a large amount of energy. Stormwater filtered, this refers to a couple of different things. I'm assuming it mostly refers to the buffering effect that especially large trees provide during storm events when there's a lot of rain and a lot of groundwater. They intercept the rain, they hold it for a bit. When it does reach the ground, they do take it up into their systems quite rapidly and in quite significant amounts. And the roots and the soil surrounding them also, they buffer, they hold on to that water and prevent overloads and flooding due to overloads due to our drainage systems. So the calculation has been made that over 173 million gallons are filtered every year. Air quality improvement. So this comes down to the sham wow feature that was mentioned by Caitlin earlier in terms of the scrubbing effect of trees, especially large canopy trees, in removing particulate from the air. Again, we don't know how these numbers were calculated, but according to YEG Tree Map and its mysterious software, a considerable amount, a considerable weight of fine particulate air pollutants are removed to the improvement of the air quality for everyone. Carbon dioxide removed. This relates quite directly to the energy conserved. So I think this presumes as well that the energy that is being conserved would have been powered by fossil fuel sources, hence the amount of carbon dioxide which is essentially avoided by conserving energy. And my favorite statistic here on this sidebar here is the carbon dioxide stored to date. As you all know, I'm sure, trees will absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen as part of their day-to-day life cycle. They convert the carbon into the wood, and that carbon is held there. It is sequestered for the life of the tree, only being released once the tree declines or fails, and the process of decomposition begins, which releases the carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. And so here we have over 183 million pounds. So another little quirk here in terms of YEG Tree Map, most of the measurements are imperial, which we're all pretty used to imperial measurements, but if I were to suggest an improvement, I would like to see this in metric as well. Partly because I think in terms of the metric tonnage of carbon dioxide sequestered, the sound of 83,000 metric tons, I don't know, it sounds like it has more heft to me than 183 million pounds, but that's just a subjective observation on my part. So those are the types of benefits, again, the economic and ecological benefits that YEG Tree gives an impression of. One search feature I haven't really touched on yet is there's a couple of advanced search features which might be useful for your own research in terms of what you might be interested in honing in on in terms of examples of trees that are in YEG Tree Map. So you go on, you click on the advanced search button here, and there's a few different choices here. The general drop-down menu, if you're wondering when trees, like the update history essentially, this is the field where you would enter the parameters and click on search and find that. The current display here for the advanced search shows trees and empty planting sites. But if you click on the trees, this is where it gets interesting for me. Say, for example, you were looking to find out, you were interested in just how, say you were planning on planting a private tree in your yard, and you were really interested in say, how much carbon or any of these benefits, frankly, would be provided by a tree at full maturity. Like how much do the really big trees provide? So what you could do, and this is where the DBH comes in again, you could put in some very large tree diameters here, say do a search for any City of Edmonton trees that are between 100 and 200 centimeters DBH. So these are big, between 1 and 2 meters diameter, 1.2 meters above grade. And we'll do a search here, and you will see a distinctive change in the map as this is calculated. So obviously far fewer trees in the massive category than all the others. And you'll see here in the top left, 79 trees have been indicated to be between 100 and 200 centimeters DBH. This might be a good opportunity to highlight this map overlay function. If you're doing a search for smaller numbers of trees, I would recommend staying in the streets overlay, because you get into the satellite with fewer dots, especially at this scale, this far out in space, essentially. The dots can quite easily blend into the greenery of the background on the photo representation. So streets, you can see there's a lot greater contrast. I'm going to zoom right in here to the center of Edmonton and see if we can pick out a tree that'll give a good example of what we're looking for in terms of a large tree. And here we are in Riverdale, the fine neighborhood of Riverdale. And here's a tree here. So I'll move the icon over, give a quick click, and let's see what comes up. And there we have an American elm. I'm just scrolling quickly up on the side here. And here are the details that come up. It's a 103 centimeter American elm. And then there's a summary here of the individual benefits or the cumulative benefits that this individual tree provides. You can just take a quick look through here, you know, along the side, or if you click on the more details button within here, you get a nice fresh page, which gives a lot more information in what I think is a very pleasing sort of format. So there we have it, the American elm. The person who entered this provided their own photo as well here, and that's great. Look at that great elm. You know, in terms of the benefits, they are listed down here again. So carbon dioxide, energy conserved, carbon dioxide removed, air quality, stormwater filtered. This tree is doing a great job. It's pulling its weight in terms of tree benefits. So this particular view of this tree is from the southwest. Sorry, it's from the southeast, looking towards the northwest. You can see there's a shadow on this house here. So this tree and most of these ecological benefits are very localized. You know, the savings in terms of energy diverted or carbon diverted for cooling this house in summer, this house on the right, the tree provides a direct benefit in terms of those costs to that tree. You can see there's a shadow on this house, and it's an even greater shadow, of course, when the tree is in full leaf. The house on the left is getting the benefits of the insulating properties of this tree. This tree is intercepting the winds. Winds are predominantly from the northwest in Edmonton. So those winter winds are being intercepted by the magnificent canopy on this tree. And the storm runoff effects are shared. The benefits are shared between these two houses. There's a lot of water that this tree is hanging on to while the drainage infrastructure related to these two houses does its best to pump the water out. So good job, tree, in keeping these basements dry. Just to go a little bit deeper in there, if for example, if this particular person did not enter a photo, there's a nice little feature here where you get a street view of the tree, and you can see it here. You know, a much better sort of indication, certainly of the shade that is being provided by this tree to the house on the right here in full leaf, and yeah, essentially this is what you see on a completely entered entry into YEG Tree. There's an edit history here as well. They've chosen the username Photosimplify, and it just tells you, you know, in terms of how the data got here. There is a bit of, not much of planting site information per se, but they have made a tree stewardship entry here. So they have had this tree pruned, you know, just a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago. And, you know, at the City of Edmonton, we prune our elm trees once every 4 years. It's most heavily pruned trees because of the risk of Dutch elm disease. This particular this pruning action happened, you know, certainly within 4 years. So they're doing a good job. They're doing their due diligence in terms of maintaining this tree, and it looks good. It's a good one. I'm glad we found this tree here. There's also a nice little spot here to put in any comments, and, you know, for maybe a personal note about what you know about this tree, or maybe there was an event that happened. It's a nice feature to add something anecdotal and really personalize the data as well. So so there we go. I'm going to just go back to the previous screen. There are a few different things I'd also like to highlight before we take any questions and whatnot. This is a good example here or a good opportunity here to sort of demonstrate here how we might use the polygon that I mentioned earlier in the search by location. So I'm going to click on that icon, and essentially I'm going to draw 4 corners around Riverdale Park here. 2, 3, and then I'll return to the first one. And there's my area. Okay. So, okay, I'm just going to click on it a little closer here. Unfortunately, I did not really want that jack pine in there. Typically, when we do click an area like this, the benefits for the area clicked will come up. It'll sort of compile them. Again, this was working earlier fairly well, and this might be related to some of the update issues that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to try to export the search results just in case it's just a minor glitch. So essentially, if you're looking for a more formal presentation of data, it will prepare them in a spreadsheet. But there we go. You know what? I'm going to give it another try at this. I'm going to reset it. I'm going to redraw, and I'm going to hope for the best because it's a neat feature, and I would like it to work properly for y'all to see exactly how it does work here. Okay.
Yeah, George, this is a great tool to create a polygon around a neighborhood. You can see what the tree diversity is available in your neighborhood. So if you are looking at planting more trees around, you can kind of look at what's existing and maybe consider planting new species, or maybe even visiting spots where species are growing quite well and thinking about the conditions that might be contributing to its success.
Thanks, Caitlin. And it does seem to be working now. So again, we have a summary on the side here of the benefits provided by the trees that are entered into this park. And I'll just give you a quick peek here at the data that it'll provide you in a more formal report. As it's thinking about it on my 7-year-old laptop here. I have confidence in this computer. It has seen me through COVID unexpectedly. So the last thing I want to do is badmouth it for taking a little time. And there we go. So the number of trees is provided. The GPS coordinates of the trees is provided. Its internal City of Edmonton number is provided, as well as the genus, species, and cultivars. So if you are looking for this sort of information in a more formal layout, this does provide that capability. So another neat feature. Oh yes, well, here's the exciting bit. Let's add a tree. I added a tree for the first time last week, so it's fairly straightforward. I'm confident I can do it again live. So let's go about it. I'm going to use that spruce that I mentioned earlier that was outside my front door. I'm revealing my address here, but I feel like I'm in good company, so I'm not too concerned about that. And there we are. And now here's a point where I will add a different map overlay, just so that I can really hone in on the tree that I want to add. So there's my house down here. And what I'm going to do, I would like to add an entry in YEG Tree Map for this Colorado spruce here. So the instructions say on the sidebar, please move marker to exact location of the tree. That looks pretty close to me. There we go. A nice little picture pops up from Street View again. And that was step 1, simple. Next, I am going to click on the next button. I'm just going to add a fairly common name for this tree, the Colorado spruce, noted for its blue hue. And there we go. Now, there's a couple of different features down here. Now, I'm just trying to see why it's not. Oh, maybe it's making me click on this. So, okay, there we go. So it does give hints in identifying the tree species if you're not quite sure. And you will recall again, DBH, those 3 letters. So if you do know the diameter, that's where it goes. If you had a tape measure and you can only get the circumference and you weren't sure of how to convert it to diameter, it very handily provides a circumference field here as well. So don't get too stressed out about achieving diameter if you only have a tape that reads circumference. There's options for both. I did use my DBH tape, so I do know that this tree is 45 centimeters. Now, add another trunk. This is a neat feature as well. If it is a multi-stem, measure the stems individually, and then this program will do the math, which essentially is the calculation for multiple stems is to take the square of the sum of the square root of the sum of the squares of the individual stems. And that's why it's handy. You don't have to remember that. All you need to do is type in the individual sizes for the trunks. It will do the math for you and end up with the appropriate DBH. So I won't be adding another trunk. This is it has a good strong leader, no codominance on my spruce tree. So next, here we go. There it is. It's after I add this tree, it says I'm done. Now I'm going to go back because I wonder if there is an option to add the photo, and maybe I just missed it here.
I think it's an option to edit the tree once you click the done button there.
That could very well be it. Let's have a look. Oh, well, there it is. It's on the dot. There we go. And here is, okay. Oh, now this is, okay. So these are the total again for the entire urban forest, the benefits here, but let's click on it here. Okay, I'm going to go into that nice individual page here. Okay, there is the add the photo feature. Before I add the photo, I'm just going to scroll down because I'm curious about what the eco benefits are for this tree. So here we are. All right. Look at that, over 1,600 pounds of carbon in this tree. Wood is heavy, and carbon is at least 50% of the mass of the tree. So there is a street view of it. There it is in the corner here behind my fence. But I've also taken a photo which shows it a bit nicer. And you know what? It says I'm only 75% complete. Once I add a photo, I'll hit 100%. And who doesn't want to hit 100%? So here we go. Once again, it'll just take a moment here as you get a quick peek into my hard drive here. Oh, it's down here. There we go. I'm going to go to today's date on my camera. That is the photo I want. And there it is. And there is a way of editing this and rotating it, I do believe. I'm going to edit it just because no one needs to crank their head around to take a look at my tree. There it is. Nice tree, huh? I'm going to save it. And the entry is complete. Another tree in YEG Tree Map. Editing is extremely simple to do. You know, as your tree grows or the condition changes, or if you just want to confirm what, you know, the street tree outside your house is in terms of size. If you want to update it a bit, all you need to do is click on it. This is a city tree outside my neighbor's house. You do have the power to edit, and you know, use this power wisely. Of course, you know, a system is only as good as the data that accompanies it. So with great power comes great responsibility. So I'm sure you will all, you know, be very disciplined and in terms of data integrity. But I thought I should mention that regardless. So yeah, that essentially is the tutorial. I don't know if any questions have come through the chat line, but if it's all the same to anyone, well, I'll stay on this screen. I won't stop sharing just yet in case there are any questions where walking through the program might be the best way to do it. But do you have anything to add, Caitlin, that I might have overlooked in the course of events here?
No, that was great, George. Thank you. I think maybe before we conclude the formal part of the presentation, we might just take a few moments to kind of zoom out and consider the bigger picture and why we're promoting the YEG Tree Map. You might be wondering some of the ways that the city and yourself can harness this data and use it towards your sustainability goals. So when homeowners and Edmontonians do input their privately owned trees, just like George did this evening, we start to build a better snapshot of what our canopy currently looks like in terms of actual coverage and species diversity. And we can gain insight into the benefits that our forest provides, and we can share that information with others, whether it's to inspire political change, maybe lobby others to plant trees in their neighborhood, or even just be more informed about tree protection and preservation. Really, with careful stewardship, the benefits of the trees in our forest will just continue for generations, and they appreciate over time. So proper management and education is really crucial. From a disease and management perspective, for example, by logging species of elm and ash, we'll be better equipped to manage the threat of Dutch elm disease and emerald ash borer, two invasive tree pests that have a significant impact on urban forests.
And just to be clear, by logging, she means entering the data, not cutting down and processing the trees.
Yes, thank you. Good clarification. Some other ideas George even kind of touched on. I mean, users can filter out large trees, and this can help you to project the benefits of a tree that you might be looking to plant, and maybe even the lifespan of that tree. You can review tree diversity within the neighborhood, like we discussed. If you're planting an unusual tree, you can look out and filter for that species to see what sort of conditions might have contributed to its success. The map has been used as an educational tool for teachers and special interest group. A lot of the elementary teachers that we do kind of work with, they use this map to learn the names of trees in their schoolyard. Users can also use this application and put in specific keywords and tags. So it's useful to find historic trees or trees planted for special events, or even trees that bear edible fruit. Yeah, overall, I think just the general public, special interest groups, maybe community gardens, stewardship groups, everyone I think can find a usefulness of this tool, and we're really happy to share it with everybody this evening. So thanks for listening to us, and we appreciate it. And I think it looks like some questions might have come through. Yeah, so I see one from Sandra. Is it possible to estimate roughly how old that fantastic elm is? So I think that's that one, the 103 dBH on the private property.
You know, a good rule of thumb is when was the house or the neighborhood built? It's a very good question. There are some tools out there that will give you age estimators based on dBH and species, and the zone you're in as well. We're a bit of an afterthought in terms of our zone here in central northern Alberta. Most of those sort of tools are U.S. centric, of course, but there is. I would urge you to like to explore them because they're interesting to see what they come up with. But I know for our neighborhood trees, we'll often look at the age of the homes, because there's a strong correlation between the original construction and the planting of the tree. But for that particular tree, I would say it's a century or more old.
Great. Okay.
So,
sorry, Julie, did you want to facilitate the questions?
No, I think go for it. And if you guys need me to jump in, I will.
Sure. Okay, some questions from Greg. Does the city pull data from this open map to help with some of those management initiatives, such as where ash and elm are? And yes, so this is sort of a call out to citizens to help us manage our private elm and ash inventory. We do have some members of our pest department who are diligently trying to go through and spot where the private ash and elm are, but they're a very small team. So it is useful to have help from citizens, and the Pest Lab is open to learning more. So if you were interested in kind of hearing where they're at, what neighborhoods they've already done, and then maybe assisting, they would definitely take that assistance. And I know that they're interested in the YEG Tree Map as a tool to help them kind of map that inventory. Okay, and another question. I hope that answered your question, Greg. Is there any quality control for submitted data, even just to filter out mistakes like a 300 centimeter DVH? Yeah, so this was something that was definitely chatted about when the map first launched. And there was an idea about this. So they were looking at having someone facilitate this YEG Tree Map, in which they would kind of look over it monthly, make sure that there were no mistakes. You used a great example there, filtering out for large DBH trees. We're hoping to get back to a place like that. We've had a lot of reorgs in the city, and we've kind of lost a little bit of touch with the YEG Tree Map, but it has been decided that we're going to use it more as a public tool. So hopefully we'll get back to a point like that, but at this time we don't have anyone looking out for those mistakes. And I mean, maybe that's something we can even kind of do a citizen call out or citizen science to help with. But currently there are no city employees who have able to do that at this time. Okay. Another question from Sandra. Is the map updated or reviewed when trees die or blown over or struck by lightning? Great question. So when it comes to trees on public property, we definitely do manage that inventory. So anytime a tree is removed for any reason, it's updated in that tool that we mentioned called YEG Tree Keeper, and then the tree schedule for replacement after that. We are looking at doing an update from YEG Tree Keeper, so we'd be exporting all of the data from our formal inventory into YEG Tree Map. So hopefully in the very near future, we will be doing that. So this YEG Tree Map is due, as George mentioned, for a big update. So we'll have a clearer picture of where our inventory currently stands shortly. We just need to work with the software company and provide them with our internal database. Okay. Question from Elizabeth. Does the city have any plans to protect old growth trees on private property when there are plans to redevelop it, such as infill? Great question. My neighbor has many old growth trees on private property, but I've noticed when an infill house appears, they take all the trees down. Yes. Maybe I'll pass this one to you, George. I know you have experience in infill.
Yes, it's true. There is currently no requirement for protection of private trees in the city of Edmonton for redevelopment purposes. There's just not the political appetite. We've been working on a new tree protection bylaw for the past 6 months or so, and we're getting a good head of steam up on it. But in terms of the political appetite for including private trees, it just was not significant enough to merit their inclusion. We would get a lot of pushback on the protection of the public trees if we were to include the private ones. Having said that, we are trying to encourage infill developers to retain trees by waiving the requirement for planting for a landscape plan. I think they're required to plant 2 new trees and 3 shrubs as a part of many development applications. We waive that requirement if they retain trees that are currently existing, so that we hopefully are at least encouraging them to retain the larger established trees, because we know that the big benefits come from big trees. So we're urging them, we're cajoling them, but in terms of legislation or that route, that's simply not on the horizon for the time being. But having said that, City Council responds to public pressure. So if there's enough public pressure for something like that, it might happen slowly and over time, but sooner or later, our elected representatives at least have to address it and talk about it. So we're hopeful to keep that conversation going, but that's a long-term perspective, I have to admit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Greg chimed in here as well, just with a comment, and there's no protection for private trees across all of Alberta, not just Edmonton, and that's true. And as we were kind of formulating and drafting our public tree bylaw, we definitely did look to other cities outside of Alberta to kind of help model and guide our draft, because it looks like there's really good models out there, and we're hoping to adapt some of their processes and policies. So that's great. Okay. A question from Dustin. Can the map play nice with other tree mapping software such as YEG Tree Keeper and Registry? Hopefully. So we have hired a new individual within our inventory and assessment team who has a great wealth of experience working with ArcGIS and mapping and associated softwares. And they have taken a look at the YEG Tree Map and pointed out all the same concerns, plus more, that George and I had as we were kind of diving into the YEG Tree Map, and she's confident that she can work to make some updates and help us out with that. But the main thing we're looking to do at this point is make sure the YEG Tree Map is a good reflection of our current state. And what we can do quite easily is export our data from YEG Tree Keeper and then import it into YEG Tree Map. It's just a matter of contacting the software company and getting that completed. So we're hoping to get this YEG Tree Map as up to date as possible, but then also working to fine tune some of the issues that you saw come up tonight and some other ones that we know that the software has. It really is a wonderful tool, and we would love the public to help us with inputting private trees. So we will be looking into kind of buffing up the YEG Tree Map further. But good question. We are hoping to make it a bit a bit more user-friendly and representative of our urban canopy. Okay, and then Julie, you just had a point here that you put in a comment there. Did you want to share that?
Sure, just that, you know, if there are some policy type questions that people are quite interested in, you know, maybe advocating around or getting more people fired up about, such as the protecting private trees on private property when there is new construction, that's the type of thing that we can coordinate through Tomorrow Foundation. So I did put our email in the chat, connect@tomorrowfoundation.ca, or if you wanted to just sign up for our newsletter, that's the kind of thing that we'll be sharing through the newsletter as the months progress.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Caitlin,
Mm-hmm.
a quick question. So if you update this YEG Tree Map from your Davy Tree Keeper, will you retain the information that's currently on the YEG Tree Map to kind of
Yes.
show a change over time? Because I mean, yeah, I'm somebody who thinks about long time scales and how like the urban forest might develop over time, and that's just fantastic data to even compare. Even if it's not perfect, it's like a comparison of how the canopy is growing or the number of trees in the inventory is growing.
For sure, yeah. And I have a little bit of experience. Back when I was working with Root for Trees, I was working with Xavier, the software company. And what they do is every time we provide them with data to import into YEG Tree Map, they do a snapshot of the current state and they provide us with that information. But then when they update our new public information, they don't replace any information that was input by users. So we would retain that information, and we can even filter out by the information that they pulled as the snapshot and kind of direct them as to what we would like to keep and what we wouldn't like to keep. So if we run through that data quickly and we notice any errors or we notice something that seems significant, we can chat with the software company for sure and work with them to make sure that we're retaining the right information. Okay, Julie, does the city have a quick cheat sheet for common tree types in Edmonton to help with identification for people who might not know the correct tree species? Yes, we do. We have one web page online. It's Common Tree Species of Edmonton. It could be a bit better, but it does tell you the most common species you'll likely find around the city. There's also some great apps out there where you can kind of hold your phone camera up to a leaf and it will tell you the tree species, and that I think would be the most useful. The city website could likely do with some updating with some photos, but it would give you a good head start to know which tree species you'll likely find in the city.
Great, thanks. And Caitlin, if you wanted to provide me with some of those resources, I will be sending out a post-event email to everybody who registered, and we can include links to some of those resources if you'd like. Yeah,
absolutely. That sounds great. Oh, okay, another one. Sorry, a follow-up to Julie's question. Is the Community Forestry Department thinking about potential of running short seminars on how groups could use this for community groups? Yes, absolutely. So something we have been talking about this year is workshops for community leagues, schools, and special interest groups. We are just a new team. We started in November of last year, and we did hit the ground running. We worked with City Hall School quite a bit to provide some presentations, but a lot of our stuff kind of got knocked off course when COVID happened. So we did have plans to visit community leagues, and we were in talk with some of them. However, we kind of got cut short, but now that everyone has seemed to kind of figure out how to have the workarounds, whether it's online or social distancing in a park, we are absolutely back on track and looking at those seminars, like you said, and workshops. And we're really interested in feedback from the community in terms of what they're looking for. So do they want to learn about tree protection, or are they really interested in the YEG Tree Map? We're more than happy to facilitate a presentation based on the interest of the community. And I don't see any more questions coming in the chat.
All right, well, if there's no more questions for our guests, I'd like to say thank you, everyone, for attending tonight, and especially thank you to Caitlin and George. I learned a lot about this YEG Tree Map. I'm quite excited to give it a little whirl. My fingers are tingling, ready to go input some trees. And so I wanted to thank you for that. And also thank anybody who was able to make a donation for this webinar. Your donations do go towards expanding our community science programs. And one more shout out to GFI Systems for their contribution tonight. And as well, the City of Edmonton for having the wonderful urban foresters come out and speak to us tonight.